Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is N10million, your billionaire farmer. So in this video today, I want to show you how to make 10 million in cassava production business in Nigeria as a beginner. In this video, I'm going to review the step-by-step, the guide, how you can make this money. Now, you'll be wondering, is it possible? Why are all farmers not billionaire, right? If someone could make, as a beginner, could make 10 million, why are all farmers not billionaires? Just stay connected to this video because I am one of the best agro teachers in Africa. So when you watch this video to the end, you will know what I'm saying is achievable for you as a beginner. So first, you have to subscribe to my YouTube channel, right? Give this video a thumbs. And then let's push into the business of today. Now, how profitable is cassava cultivation in Nigeria? Because this is where we are going to look at first, right? How profitable is cassava production in Nigeria? So there are a few key things I want us to look at. Number one, I want you to know that Nigeria is the largest producer of cassava in the world. The whole world, Nigeria is the largest producer. And if you study the history of cassava originated from South America, right? It's not even an African product. You know, cassava from Brazil, some of the during slave trade, that was when cassava was brought to Nigeria and to the South, right? So these are places where cassava have came and has been. Yeah, so in Nigeria we have 36 states, right? So over 24 states in Nigeria produce cassava in commercial quantities. And Benue has been the leading state. I'm from Benue State, right? So Benue has been the leading state. Over 24, that is, it's just 12 states which are from the core north that don't produce cassava. So every other state in Nigeria can produce cassava and should produce cassava in commercial quantity. And when you produce this cassava, the next thing you have to understand is that over 120 million Nigerians consume cassava related product daily. So if you're based in Nigeria, you will know that some of the product that we consume from cassava, we have things like gari, where some of you take a bar every day restaurant, high-end restaurant. You see a bar, you see akpu, you see Towo, and several alibo, several other things. They are all cassava related products. So it's a daily food. It's a food that is consumed in Nigeria daily. So you can agree with me that there is a market and a demand. Cassava is just like rice, right? The rate at which you consume both cassava and rice in Nigeria is very, very huge, and it's increasing on a daily basis, right? So no doubt cassava is a profitable business. Now I want us to look at, our goal is how to make 10 million. Is it possible to make 10 million in cassava production? So now let me tell you the reason why many farmers are not making that much, and many farmers might never even touch 1 million in their life. Because they know cassava can survive anywhere, so they don't take into account the things that you can do to boost the yield of cassava. And sadly, as a farmer, I know that one of the major challenges we also face in cassava businesses or in farming in general is capital. The capital, you will need a good amount of money for you to be able to set up this kind of business. And we are cultivating 3 hectares. Based on this class now, I'm going to use 3 hectares as our example. I'm going to use 3 hectares as our example, right? So 3 hectares of cassava. So what is the expected yield if you cultivate 3 hectares? The yield of cassava per hectare is based on several factors. And some of them are like the variety of cassava you plant, the farming practices you have engaged, the soil fertility, and weather conditions. These are the things that you have to know. These are the things that can help you to make that 10 million. So now let's discuss the variety of cassava. We have more than 40 varieties of cassava in the world. More than 40 varieties, right? Many more coming up on a daily basis as research is ongoing. But the common varieties cultivated in Nigeria and the expected yield is as follows. TMS 30572. When you plant this one, you are expecting 25 to 35 tons per hectare. TM 419, you are expecting 25 to 30 tons, right? NR, you are expecting 30 to 40 tons, right? 40 tons per hectare, right? Then 35. So what are these variety of cassava, and how can you get this variety of cassava? Now, this is the reason why you have to understand as a beginner farmer that this business you are going into, there is a science to it for you to be able to make huge profit. Our parents are doing it in villages, but they don't actually care. They don't do it as, okay, let me sit down and calculate. I don't blame them. They don't have that education. They don't have that access to the information that you're seeing here now. That these varieties of cassava, they are improved varieties here in Nigeria. One of the reasons why they are worked upon is because as the weather changes, science is developing crops that will be able to survive in drought areas, that will be able to survive in any kind of weather changes, right? So these varieties also help. Some of them are some kind of disease tolerance, right? They can survive. They can push through some of the diseases that affect cassava production. So if you know, okay, you are going to cultivate 3 hectares, so which of this cassava are you going to cultivate, or are you going to plant? So are we going with TMS 98, which will give us 40 tons per hectare, or we are going with TMS 30572 that will give us an average of 25 tons per hectare? So these are the things you have to calculate, and these varieties are everywhere. You know, most times in some of our communities, they might be called differently. That is another thing, because if you go to my village, this TMS 419, they might call it a different kind of name, so you might not be able to identify it by their name, except you take this thing to an expert, to the Ministry of Agriculture in your area. You take the stain to them, or you can even buy the stains from them. They have the best. You can buy a stain, buy a bunch of stains from them, and then you know that this is the variety of cassava you're going with, right? So you can go with any kind of variety here, and we'll get the result that we want. So now, farming practices and soil fertility, right? So how you manage your farm will also determine the output. Yes, because how you manage your farm is not just about, okay, you cultivate 3 hectares. Another person might cultivate 1 hectare, and that person will be able to manage the farm perfectly, nurture it, make sure there is no weed, apply fertilizer, the right fertilizer, check the soil content, and know which of the what is it called now, which of the ingredients is missing, and add it. What is the fertilizer that is missing? Okay, do we need to include or increase this type, and they will add it up. So this kind of attention to details will make this person to harvest higher yield than you, who have done 3 hectares and the person did only 1. The person was able to manage it with knowledge. It simply means your knowledge determines how much millions you can make from cassava production. I don't know why I become so passionate about cassava production recently. Maybe because of the research I'm doing and some of the business plans I've written for people within the cassava industry. I've gotten to learn so much about cassava that me myself have never thought of. You know, I've been doing cassava for more than 15 years, right, with my parents, right? But I've never been able to study cassava the way I understand cassava business now. So there are many ways to this business. So all you have to do is to get knowledge, understand these things, understand everything you need to know. What is the soil fertility? What kind of soil does cassava need? Is it clean soil? Is it loamy soil? Is it sandy soil? You know, most of all these soil type, the varieties of cassava that we have seen there might survive in sun and might not survive well, or might even survive but not do well in sun. Right? So you have to know, if my land is loamy soil, what variety of cassava can produce maximally in loamy soil. You go for that variety of cassava. You don't just cut cassava stem from anywhere and plant. No, you check, you investigate, you make research to understand what is the soil fertility, what is the soil type. Okay, as I have this, sometimes in Nigeria here, we find cassava mostly in two aspects. We make ridges or the bed, the flat bed. So most farmers make ridges or heaps, right? Ridges or heaps. So it's depending on your choice, but personally I prefer heaps for cassava, but some people still use the ridges, except you do them very tall and big, so that the cassava tubers will be able to go down and stay well, right? So these are some of the practices. So you have to know, if you're going for TMS 419 that is going to give you 35 tons per hectare, how long does this cassava stay? They have duration. My ebook on this will be ready very soon, and I'll make it available so that you can go through it and study, because I myself am surprised at some of the information that I've been getting from practicing farmers, successful cassava farmers anyway, that I've been getting recently, and I'm upgrading my knowledge, and I wish to share more with you. So you have to know with certainty that, okay, this is the soil and this is the practice I'm going to use. So next is the weather conditions, right? So apart from the 12 northern states, far north states in Nigeria, any other state in Nigeria can produce cassava. States like Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, Jigawa, Kano, Niger, all those states, they can plant cassava, right? But it doesn't produce well, based on maybe one, the weather, the rainfall, the humidity, and the frost-free climate. These are some of the challenges that will make their cassava not to produce. As someone who is in Oyo, or someone who is an Anambra state that produce cassava, or someone from Benue state, or a farmer from Kogi, this type of farmers, they have enough rainfall, the adequate size, there is good humidity, the temperature is fine, right? So cassava can strive well in these states. So if you want to go into cassava production, you have to check which state is cassava doing well. If your state is not producing cassava in commercial quantity, or the cassava is not striving well, then you can move to another place, buy land or lease it, and do your farm. At least a place that is security-wise is safe, right? You can get Benue State is Kogi State, Anambra, Cross River State, right? These are states that their soil is good. So you just have to look for a place that there is security, and you go into this business, and you'll be able to make a lot of money out of it. And I'm going to show you practically how this can be achieved. But these are the things we have to consider. Cassava cannot strive in waterlogged area, right? Because the tubers will get rotten. So you also have to know that the rainfall should not be excessive. You can't plant cassava in swampy area, it will not do well. The root, it will produce a root, but the water will get it destroyed. So these are the things you have to consider. Then profitability calculation. So now let's check. If you are cultivating 3 hectares of TMS 419, you are getting an average of 30 tons per hectare. Remember, we are not using the 40 tons per hectare now, because there are many things for you to be able to make that 40 tons per hectare. So, but let's assume you follow those steps. You check your soil fertility, you check the weather conditions, you get the best variety for that weather condition and for that soil. So if this TMS 419 that is best for your soil, best for the weather condition, best for your knowledge, then you're targeting on average a hectare of cassava can give you 30 tons of cassava tubers, right? So for 3 hectares we are getting 90 tons of cassava, right? So if you multiply, currently cassava is selling for 150 to 170, 180, 200,000 per ton, depending on the market and the cassava variety, right? So let's assume the one you're selling is just 150,000 per ton, and you have harvested 90 tons on your 3 hectares. You can harvest more than this or less, but we're using 90 tons as an example. And if you sell it for 150, it means you have made 13,500,000 gross profit. It's gross profit because there are many expenses that you also have to incur, right? So how much now is a net profit? How much is your net profit? So now let's see. Cost of cultivating 3 hectares of cassava. The first thing is land acquisition. You have to buy your 3 hectares. So depending on the place you're buying the hectares, right? But in Benue State here, for 135,000 naira, you can get 3 hectares, depending on the local government too, right? So land preparation, that is spraying of chemicals and clearing all the bushes and the trees and the shrubs and the rest. With 48,000, that work can be done. The tilling of 3 hectares, based on our calculation here in Benue State, 105,000 can do it. Seeding and fertilizer cost. So the cassava stem you are going to plant, maybe you will buy them, obviously, since you are going for a special kind, you buy the stems, and 150,000 is our budget for that. You buy your weighing scale. What is this weighing scale used for? It will be used during harvest so that you can calculate how many tons, you weigh how many tons you have made, right? It's not just, it's good that you have it so that you can get your calculations right. Then herbicide cost. So selective and non-selective. You know, herbicide, these are the ones that you're going to spray in your cassava farm. You have planted your cassava. We have both selective. So the selective one is that if you spray on the cassava leaves, the bush in that cassava will die, but the cassava will stay. The weed there will die off, but the cassava will not be affected. We call that selective herbicide. They are selective. The non-selective herbicide, those ones, once you spray, anything that touches it dies, right? So you're going to use a few cartons, let's say 180,000 naira can get you that. Then other costs, you know, you say when you have laborers in your farm, you have to cook food for them, right? Sometimes you even pay their transport of coming to work, you know, some things like that. So we say, okay, other expenses, buying of fish, buying of meat, come and cook, buying of water and other things, you're spending 300,000. So if you calculate all this costing that we have identified here so far, the major costing that we have identified here so far, you have 1,068,000. Now remember our 13,500 gross profit. If you minus it now from this 1,068,000, you are going to have 12,423,000 naira. Yes, which is good, right? So this is what you're going to have at the end of the day. Of course, there will be many other expenses like uprooting the cassava, transportation of cassava to maybe the factory or anywhere you are taking it, or if someone is buying it from you, how much and the rest. You're still going to spend this money. So at the end of the day, you might not be, you will still make millions. So remember, the whole of this costing just take you like 1.something, or let's say 2 million, and you are able to close with this amount, which is a big business. So many farmers cannot afford 1.something million. At least according to CBN in Nigeria, more than 90% of Nigeria does not or do not have up to 500,000 naira in their bank account. So you can agree with me that farmers will not even have up to 1 million. But you coming in new as somebody who will have access to fund, if you can drop like 3 million, settle down, get this expert advice and plan your business properly, you make massive money from cassava. In Benue State, for example, we have 2 Chinese companies that are here in Benue State. What they do is they buy cassava tubers, they process it into not gari, not our normal gari, they process starch. The other ones they use for animal feed and export to their country. So they are buying cassava here in Benue State like it's hot cake. Once you have and take it to their factory, they count, they weigh it and pay you cash. Is that crazy? So people are rushing into cassava. There is market. So if you want to go into maybe doing of Gary, people that are into Gary production, they are also looking for cassava to buy. So there is demand for cassava, and it's something that you can invest your money as a beginner and make good profit out of it. So I advise you give cassava production a trial. Maybe it might not be on 3 hectares, but you can do 1 hectare or even half a hectare as a trial, as a pilot farm. Calculate your costs and see how it will go. Invest in cassava. Is one of the most favorable crop in Nigeria that is doing well in all the states that I've mentioned. So give cassava production a trial. Thank you so much for watching this video. You can reach out to me on my WhatsApp contact, and please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn the notification bell on so that we will always get notified when I drop new content. Thank you so much. I remain Dennison, your billionaire farmer.